Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this motion, that this House approved the 2019 economic policy and budget of the government of the Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, in the Ofuasia Rebi constituency where I come from, the story is told of a proverbial bird known in local parlance as Anoma Kukunekune, which bird is known for one thing and one thing only. It goes upstream to muddy the waters, and then it rushes downstream. And when it finds out that the village elders and the village folk have gathered to clean up the muddied waters, it is the first to scream the loudest. Why are the waters so muddy? Why are times so hard in the village? Mr. Speaker, here in this chamber this afternoon, that same scenario is playing out. The village elders have gathered and are at the tail end of cleaning up the muddied waters. And there is one among us shouting the loudest. Why are the waters muddy? Why are times so hard? And Mr. Speaker, this bird does this primarily because it believes that the people will have a short memory and not recollect who muddied the waters and how the waters got muddied. Mr. Speaker, if there's anybody who holds the hope today that the people will have a short memory and not recollect how the waters were muddied, what work has been done in cleaning up the muddy waters, and what lies ahead, I have news for that person. The news is that we shall not forget. Mr. Speaker, we shall not forget how the fundamentals of our economy were torn into shreds, and we reached an unsustainable debt-to-GDP ratio of 73%. And the fact that today, macro stability has been restored to the admiration of all economic watchers. We shall not forget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we shall not forget when economic growth decelerated to 3.7%, and the fact that at least in our first year we brought it up to over 8%. Mr. Speaker, we shall not forget when graduating as a university graduate was a risk because you could not find a job. And the fact that today, in one single day, 100,000 graduates can be put to work. We shall not forget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we shall not forget those days when the government of the Republic of Ghana just threw its hands up in the air when hardships befell their people. We shall not forget that today, through a plethora of social intervention programs, we are reducing the hardship of our people by cutting electricity tariffs, eliminating the cost of tertiary education to parents or secondary education to parents, Mr. Speaker, reducing the cost of healthcare by improving the national health insurance activity, and also reducing taxes on petroleum products. We shall not forget any of these things, Mr. Speaker. So if there's anybody who thinks that he can play the role of this proverbial Anoma Kukunekune, muddy the waters, hope we will forget, and ask why are times so hard, our answer to them is that we shall not forget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are some 4 specific matters I want to respond to before I go into my substantive debate. One is that some of our friends on the minority side threaten that they will not be part or party to passing this budget unless the finance minister withdraws it and goes to make some corrections. The Hansa department is here. In passing the 2017 budget, the ranking member of the finance committee was the one who made the same prediction that he will not be part of passing that budget because the DACF was unconstitutional and that they were going to go to court. In the end, they joined us to pass it. These are antics for the cameras that are here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they say we should show to them what we have done with the money we have raised. Let me refresh their memory, Mr. Speaker. When we assumed power, we were given a liability of 7 billion Ghana cedis, which we mentioned could not be traced directly in the books. Indeed, when we asked contractors and others who claimed they were owed to produce their bills, the bill shot up to 11 billion. It was at that time that we sent a request to the Auditor General to audit. And when he came back, he said 5.4 billion could not be substantiated. But 5.2 could be substantiated. If they ask us what have we been doing with the money, we've been paying the 5.2 billion Ghana cedis worth of debt that you left to us. Mr. Speaker, they ask us what have we done with the money. I take them to the budget statement of 2019 and to pages from pages 254. If they want to know what we've done, they should go to pages 254 all the way to pages 277. Projects are listed, district by district. It shows what we have done with that money. Mr. Speaker, today, as we have succeeded in cleaning up the muddied waters, today, as we have succeeded in restoring macro stability, we are now ready to launch into the deep to deal with the bold matters that lie ahead of us. The Finance Minister, in reading the abridged version of the budget, in paragraph 109, Mr. Speaker, with the permission I read, says, Mr. Speaker, the budget statement and economic policy provides a detailed account of sectoral performance. And here, I want to also focus on 6 strategic pillars that build on the flagship programs and our achievements over the past 2 years. He goes on to say that, Mr. Speaker, the strategic pillars of the 2019 budget are as follows. So, Mr. Speaker, having cleaned up the mess that we inherited, having cleaned up the muddied waters, these are the 6 new priorities we are focusing on. Number 1 is infrastructure. Number 2, agri modernization. Number 3, industrialization. Number 4, entrepreneurship. Number 5, efficiency in revenue mobilization. And number 6, social protection. Mr. Speaker, let me start with infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, our national infrastructure is in a deplorable state. In many places, contrary to the incessant claims by our friends on the other side, that all their borrowing was going to build infrastructure, in many places in our country, the roads, the bridges, the railways, the water plants, they were not built. Indeed, if they were built, why would we be complaining that we need infrastructure today? And in the few instances where they attempted to build, Mr. Speaker, in the few instances where they attempted to build, the deplorable state and the quick breakdown of that infrastructure today shows us the quality of work that was done in that day. Mr. Speaker, the Akufo-Addo administration acknowledges that this is a task that we must fix, and fix it we will. If I may read from paragraph 115 of the abridged version, it says, Mr. Speaker, in addition to the above, and the above refers to the about $500 million worth of work in the first tranche of the $2 billion Sino-Hydro infrastructure transactions that are about to take place. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, in 2019, government in partnership with the private sector through PPP arrangements will undertake various projects, including the Accra-Takoradi Highway dualization, Accra-Tema Motorway, and Accra-Kumasi Highway dualization. I hear my friends on the other side say, we don't see the money in the budget. If you read the budget, it says that not all of it is being funded with GOG funds. Through PPP and other innovative financing structures, we are still able to do infrastructure that doesn't necessarily come on the burden of our books. Mr. Speaker, paragraph 117 says that work has also commenced on the rehabilitation work of the 70-kilometer narrow gauge sections of the Eastern Railway line from Accra to Nsawam and Accra to Tema. Achimota to Tema section is 90% complete, and Achimota to Accra Central and Achimota to Nsawam will be completed by the end of 2018. Rehabilitation also continues to Koforidua in 2019. Mr. Speaker, work is going to go on not just in roads and railways, but in the Water for All program, as well as even building hospital infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, quickly let me speak to agriculture. And we do know that agriculture is a mainstay of the Ghanaian economy. The statistics suggest that up to about 34% of our people are engaged in agricultural activity. Any government that is serious about growing jobs and incomes for people will be serious about agriculture. Mr. Speaker, in the first year of our Planting for Food and Jobs program, the numbers show, and these are not my numbers, the numbers show that agri productivity has moved up from 3.4 to 8.4 in that first year. In the second year, we targeted 500,000 farmers. God willing, inshallah, next year, we are targeting 1 million farmers with the Planting for Food and Jobs. And our growth will go a lot higher. Mr. Speaker, this budget contains massive programs that will create growth, jobs, and income for our people. I want to encourage our colleagues in this House to ride on it, to join us to pass it, and most importantly, to implement it so that our people benefit. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.